We have come to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of the righteous made perfect. The righteous made perfect. And, verse 24, to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. Let's talk about that phrase for a second. So we're coming to a lot of things here. We've come to a lot of things. We've come to Mount Zion. We've come to the city of the living God. We've come to innumerable angels in festal gathering. We've come to God, the judge of all. We've come to the firstborn enrolled in heaven. We've come to the righteous made perfect. We've come to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, a better covenant. And we've come to the sprinkled blood. Now, what is the sprinkled blood a reference to? It's a reference to Christ's blood on the cross, which is also a reference to what? The blood on the doorway at Passover. It's also a reference to what? The blood sprinkled upon the altar. The blood sprinkled upon the tabernacle. The blood sprinkled upon the all the tools and all the furniture. The blood sprinkled upon the people. And do we remember why that blood was sprinkled upon all those things? To consecrate and make holy. To purify and make holy. Make holy. If we go back to Exodus, when God is giving the instructions for the building of the altar, he says, and sprinkle the blood on the altar that it may be holy. Sprinkle the blood on the priests that they may be holy. Sprinkle the blood upon the tabernacle that it may be holy. Jesus poured out his blood on the cross. Why? That you may be holy. Because if you are going to enter into the city of the living God, who is what? Holy, you must also be holy. And so we have come to Jesus, the mediator of a better covenant. How is that better covenant mediated? The same way the old covenant was mediated, through the sprinkling of blood. The old covenant was mediated, was sealed by the blood being sprinkled upon all the people and all the things. The new covenant was mediated in the same way. The lamb came, was sacrificed, and his blood was shed and sprinkled upon all those who would accept it. And so that sprinkled blood, it says, speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. Speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. What does that mean? Go ahead. Take a shot at it, Randy.
I believe that right there is saying, although Abel was innocent, so was Jesus.
Yeah.
But the difference is that Jesus was sinless, whereas Abel was sinful.
Sure.
So to me, in that sense, Jesus' blood was better.
Okay. Yeah. I think that could be an aspect of it there. That makes sense. Jesus was without sin. Cain and Abel were both the first children born into sin, right? Adam and Eve were not born into sin. They brought sin into the nature of man. And Abel and Cain were the first people born into sin. So that's a point. Right. Both were unjustly killed. 100%. Right. Now, we remember that the reference to the fact that Abel's blood speaks, right? We remember, what did God say to Cain? Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. And then we read earlier in this book that Abel's blood testifies still today. We read that in the last chapter, chapter 11. Now, what is Abel's blood crying out for? It's crying out that it be avenged. For justice. What does Christ's blood cry out for? Forgiveness. Abel was killed unjustly, and it stood as a testimony and a witness to the guilt of Cain. And what did God do? Cursed him. Cain was cursed because of the blood of his brother. Christ's blood was unjustly shed. And what are the results of that? Is it a curse? It's not a curse. It's redemption, forgiveness, and salvation. And the curse of the law being broken. And that's how it's a better word than the blood of Abel. The sprinkled blood of Christ speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. That's what we have come to. Those of old came to things that were great, dramatic, thunderings and lightnings and fires and earthquakes and the trumpet and the voice. But they were also terrible. We have come to something better. We've come to Mount Zion, to the city of the living God. We've come to the joyful feasts of the angels, celebrating the bride and his bridegroom. We've come to join the firstborn, whose names are written, enrolled in heaven. We've come to the judge who we don't fear, but we go with joy, knowing he passes right and good judgments. We come to the righteous, made perfect, and we join them. We come to Jesus, the mediator of a better covenant. We come to the sprinkled blood that has sealed us in that covenant, which speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. And we're told all of that. And then we're given that encouragement and then given another warning. In verse 25, see that you do not refuse him who is speaking. The sprinkled blood speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. And so see that you don't refuse him who is speaking. Because you either accept the sprinkling of Christ's blood or you accept the sprinkling of Abel's.